So we're going to read this part through. Okay, I'm going to read this whole thing. Go. Oh God. Alright, let's get it done. The Guide to Lecture 5, Respiration and its Analogy to the Burning of a Candle. The key points of the lecture. Carbon dioxide is made by the combining of carbon from the candle and oxygen from the air. Burning wood also gives off carbon dioxide. The black charcoal. I like the panda. It's not panda, but it's just panda. Burning wood also gives off carbon dioxide. The black charcoal left after burning is the carbon in the wood that has been incompletely burned. Most solids, for example iron, burn to form a new solid. Carbon, in contrast, burns to form a new gas. This allows the products to be carried away during combustion, as in a fireplace or a candle. The respiration in humans is analogous to the combustion of a candle. In candle, the wax is fuel containing carbon. This carbon reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. The fuel for us is carbohydrates, often sugar, which contains carbon that reacts with oxygen from the air we breathe to form carbon dioxide, which we then exhale. Let's double check this. First carbon dioxide doesn't even come off of it. The second carbon dioxide does.
The origin of energy production and biosynthesis inside your living cells is the dynamic called the citric acid cycle. The 8 steps of the citric acid cycle gradually break apart 2 carbon atoms from glycolysis, capturing liberated electrons for the electron transport chain, while generating carbon dioxide as waste. The citric acid cycle starts with the end product of a previous cycle, the 4-carbon molecule oxaloacetate. New carbon enters from glycolysis in the form of acetyl-CoA, a 2-carbon acetyl group attached to coenzyme A. Step 1 is the catalytic transfer of a 2-carbon acetyl group from coenzyme A to 4-carbon oxaloacetate, creating 6-carbon citric acid, the molecule that gives the cycle its name. Citric acid is used by your cells for the biosynthesis of fatty acids, lipids, and cholesterol, and is also the substrate for step 2 of the citric acid cycle. The enzyme reaction of step 2 makes a small change to the citric acid molecule, moving the position of an oxygen atom, converting citrate into isocitrate. Step 3 of the cycle removes a carbon atom, forming carbon dioxide as waste, while converting 6-carbon isocitrate to 5-carbon ketoglutarate. During this process, chemical energy is harvested when 2 electrons are transferred to coenzyme NADH, which delivers them to nearby enzymes of the electron transport chain. Step 4 of the citric acid cycle is performed by a huge multi-enzyme complex, connecting multiple chemical reactions with flexible tethers, efficiently moving reactants between active sites, and diverting electrons between pathways. The large complex is made with a repeating unit of 3 core enzymes, working in sequence to remove a carbon atom from ketoglutarate, generating carbon dioxide waste, then attaching 4-carbon succinyl to coenzyme A. The electron from ketoglutarate oxidation is retained by the tethered enzyme before passing it to coenzyme NADH, which delivers electrons to the electron transport chain. Enzymes of step 5 separate succinyl from coenzyme A by breaking an energetic bond, providing enough energy to create GTP. GTP is a building block of RNA and an energy source for protein synthesis. In the most direct path to ATP from the citric acid cycle, other enzymes in the matrix can use GTP to make the chemical fuel ATP. Step 6 is performed by an enzyme embedded in the inner mitochondrial membrane. This enzyme is also known as complex 2 of the electron transport chain. The enzyme catalyzes the oxidation of succinate to create fumarate, releasing 2 electrons that hop through the interior to coenzyme Q, which is reduced. Coenzyme Q travels in the membrane, carrying the electrons to nearby enzymes of the electron transport chain. Step 7 takes fumarate, generated by step 6, and reacts it with water to create 4-carbon malate. The final step of the citric acid cycle uses malate to regenerate oxaloacetate, transferring electrons to coenzyme NADH, which supplies the electron transport chain. Oxaloacetate can return to step 1 for another loop of the cycle, and is also an essential building block for making amino acids and the genetic code of DNA and RNA. At the center of cellular metabolism, the citric acid cycle generates both chemical energy and material for biosynthesis of the entire diversity of molecules found inside a living cell.
Do you know why most students get 3 or lower on their AP exams and not a 4 or 5?
Are you a morning person? One of us is, and one of us is definitely not. Mainly because when I wake up in the morning, it just takes a while for me to get my energy back. It takes a lot of time and coffee for that. Some of the process occurs in the mitochondria. So let's get started. Remember, and products, outputs, are on the right side of the arrow. This equation, by the way, looks remarkably similar to photosynthesis. Look at how the reactants and products are on different sides. While that doesn't mean they're simply opposites, it does show that they have substances in common. In photosynthesis, organisms make glucose. To learn more about this intricate cycle where the 2-acetyl-CoA will enter, check out the further reading suggestible form called pyruvate. Glycolysis usually takes a little ATP itself to start up, the net yield from this step. Now an intermediate step occurs. The 2-pyruvate are transported by active transport into the mitochondria, specifically the mitochondrial matrix. In the mitochondria, pyruvate is oxidized. The 2-pyruvate are converted to 2-acetyl-CoA, which will be used by the next step. Carbon dioxide is released and 2 NADH are produced. Step 2, the Krebs cycle, also called the citric acid cycle, still in the mitochondrial matrix. The citric acid cycle is considered an aerobic process. While the cycle doesn't directly consume oxygen, some of the events in the cycle need oxygen to continue. To learn more about this intricate cycle where the 2-acetyl-CoA will enter, check out the further reading suggestions in the video details. Carbon dioxide is released. We also produce 2 ATP, 6 NADH, and 2 FADH. FADH is also a coenzyme, like NADH, and it will also assist in transferring electrons to make even more ATP. Step 3, the electron transport chain in chemiosmosis. This is just a beautiful thing, really. In eukaryotic cells, this is still in the mitochondria, and to be more specific, it's involving the inner mitochondrial membrane. We do require oxygen for this aerobic step. This is a very complex process, and we are greatly simplifying it by saying that electrons are transferred from the NADH and FADH to protein complexes in electron carriers. The electrons are used to generate a proton gradient, as protons are pumped across to the intermembrane space. All these protons being pumped out into this intermembrane space generates an electrical and chemical gradient. The thing is, if you remember, a proton requires oxygen for this aerobic step. This is a very complex process, and we are greatly simplifying it by saying that electrons are transferred from the NADH and FADH cells. This is still in the mitochondria, and to be more specific, it's involving the
All this is to say is not the same. Faraday gives the chemical history of carbon dioxide. Revealing the elements of the carbon dioxide supplied by the candle. Faraday used to called it carbonic acid, not carbon dioxide, because he didn't know about the oxygen present. So he would have said it was carbonic, like a carbonic gas or a carbon gas. It's interesting when they changed the experiments because it really changes like the original validity of his arguments. Let's see. Cool. Okay, some more carbon and oxygen, carbon dioxide. We still need to get to the respiration. Types of carbon. This is like how Neil deGrasse Tyson was arguing it. Back to normal. There we go. Faraday suggests it's not merely true in a poetic sense. Okay. The lecture then turns to a stunning analogy. There's a relationship between the combustion of a candle and that living kind of combustion which goes on within us. And this is where we're going to argue against, which is respiration. In every one of us there is a living process of combustion going on very similar to that of a candle. Not true. Faraday suggests, adding that it is not merely true in a poetical sense. The relation we just went over that. That was why we just watched that video on cellular respiration. The relation of life of humans to a candle. No, it is just a poetic sense, honestly. The lecture elaborates on this analogy, but the essence is this. A candle uses oxygen to produce air, uses oxygen from air to produce carbon dioxide, water, heat from wax. It serves as carbon-based fuel. In the human body, we take in oxygen from the air, converting our bodies to carbon dioxide, water, and heat by reacting oxygen with food, which is carbon-based fuel for our bodies. We make water in the electron transport chain. And we make carbon dioxide in the Krebs cycle. They are separate. The lecture turns to a set of experiments that make the relation very plain. The first experiment, a burning candle is placed in an apparatus with an air inlet at the bottom and limited airflow at the top. The candle continues to burn because the air is drawn through the tube connected to the air inlet. If the air inlet is blocked, the combustion stops and oxygen is available. Our lungs produce carbon dioxide. We use the oxygen in our breath. Drawing external air through the lime water, we see no effect on the water. Doesn't make the lime water turbid. That is, we have seen air does not affect lime water. But if we blow into the lime water, we see it turns milky with carbon dioxide. The lecturer then explains why this process of respiration, taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide, is necessary for our survival. If we restrain ourselves for respiration, we should destroy ourselves. And then here's Faraday's explanation. Consume food. Food goes through a strange set of vessels and organs within us and is brought into various parts of the body, into digestive parts especially. The air that we inhale is drawn to the lungs, absorbed in the bloodstream, transported to the body so that the oxygen and the food come close together. Imagine that if the food and your oxygen in your blood just like came together randomly and your blood just exploded. Like, just combustion. In the body, a curious, wonderful change takes place. The oxygen combines with the carbon, not carbon in a free state, but in this case placed ready for action at the moment, and makes carbon dioxide and so thrown out into the atmosphere. It's true. Thrown out into the atmosphere, and thus the singular result takes place. The oxygen can thus act upon the food, producing precisely the same kind of results we've seen in the case of the candle. The candle combines with parts of the air, forming carbon dioxide and evolves into heat, and we may thus look upon the food as fuel. This is just, I understand the external validity. I understand how it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense after 1920. This made sense for 1860, great, but it doesn't make sense after 1920, after 1930. I'll give you 19. Sugar, for example, is a carbon-containing compound. The formula for table sugar is 12 carbons, 22 hydrogens, and 11 oxygens. which can be written in this fancy formula, showing us why it's really like what it's, I don't know, which is showing us why sugar is called a carbohydrate that is containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbohydrate, where the hydrogen and oxygen are in a 2-to-1 ratio as in water. Actually demonstrates that sugar. That's just like a cool fact, I guess. Hydrogen and oxygen are 2-to-1 ratio, because there's nothing. I don't know how that's relevant right now. The lecture demonstrates that sugar contains carbon by adding sulfuric acid to it. In essence, the sulfuric acid removes the water, leaving behind a black tower of carbon. The carbon in sugars that we eat combines with the oxygen we breathe in a process of respiration, making us like candles. I'm sorry, it's extremely frustrating that me, a guy with no degree, is going to a physics convention to talk to people with PhDs who have gone over these lectures dozens of times, and I just didn't see the problems with it. Oxidized sugar with potassium chlorate to the reaction was very quick, with the result the formation of carbon dioxide as heat is similar to respiration. It's not true. It's not true. I'd say the majority of the heat of your body is caused by friction. Well, I'll leave that for debate. We'll find that out later. I can see how chemical reactions can generate the heat themselves. Anyways. What is a hydrate? Carbohydrate. Hydrate means water, which means oxygen and hydrogen. Different from respiration's form, but not its kind. That is, what occurs in the lungs, taking in the oxygen from another source, namely the atmosphere, takes place between potassium chloride and sugar by a much more rapid process. So is he arguing like Crawford did back in the 1700s, that air is where we generate the heat from? No, he's not. No, he's not. He's saying what occurs in the lungs, and that's not where it happens. We also have seen water and potassium water attracted. We breathe in a candle. This chemical affinity, this attraction of different parts, one part going to the other, is on. A difference, though, is while potassium starts into action with water at once, the carbon in the candle will remain days, weeks, months, or years in the presence of air. Different substances will react at different rates of reaction that we may call spontaneous. In that it will occur does not mean that the reaction will occur immediately. Some will wait till the temperature is raised a little, and others till it is raised a good deal. The lecture shows the difference by comparing gunpowder and gun cotton when applied on a heated glass rod to each. Gun cotton reacts immediately, but not even the hottest part of the rod is hot enough to fire the gunpowder. In contrast, the production of respiration wastes no time. Once air enters, when we breathe it in, it unites with the carbon. We know that's not true. It has to go through your blood, and it has to go into the mitochondria. It has to get transported quite far. This is a Crawford type of I don't know if I kept his history. Hang on. Docs. History. Crawford, yeah, him. Yeah. And this. 1779. It unites with the carbon immediately. Respiration waits no time. It's like, how would we store energy then, you know? The same could be said as respiration. A person converts as much as 200 grams, almost a half a pound of carbon into carbon dioxide in a day. A cow will convert about 2,000 grams of carbon, almost 5 pounds. A horse about 2,200 grams of carbon solely in respiration. The act of respiration, Faraday reveals, is a process in which mammals get their warmth by the conversion of carbon, not in a free state, but in a state of combination. This is going to have to be empirically proved for me to believe it, because this is Crawford theory. It's just that we're just saying that we get our warmth from the air. I guess it is chemical reaction. Is how our temperature is raised. Yeah. I don't know. It depends on how you define friction and chemical reaction on the quantum scale, I guess. Because if friction is just chemicals sliding against each other, it's chemical action, reaction. It's, we're getting technical. It's not bonding. I guess chemical bonding would be the more appropriate case. I guess, is friction caused by aggressive debonding? I don't know. Okay. Okay, 4 more pages. Over a million tons of carbon dioxide from human respiration each day going in the air. It's fortunate that the product of carbon combustion is a gas, because if, like iron, the product was a solid, respiration could not go on. The charcoal burns. The carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere, or is conveyed away to other places. What becomes of this carbon dioxide? It goes to the plants. The plants require carbon dioxide. How science unifies all physical phenomenon. Plants use carbon dioxide and return oxygen. The cycle continues in the water, and other animals respire with the same principle. Fish respire oxygen installed by air and water. This cycle makes the animal and vegetable kingdoms subservient to Earth, to each other, and all other plants growing upon the surface of Earth. If this combination of oxygen and carbon is necessary for life, then it's like, how are plants alive? How are plants alive? Kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's all chemical reactions. It's not all combustion. I guess it would have told me the other thing too. About the plastic thing, I guess in his notes probably would have told me. I'm gonna finish my break before we get into this. We're almost there though. It's 2 a.m. 4-hour video. There's gonna be a lot to edit. I was gonna edit this whole thing right after filming this. Start posting it. I guess I could post parts of it.